Hello dear tea friends from around the world. Welcome to the sixth class of our Wenshan Baozhong series. This series of classes is brought to you this semester by the Tea Masters blog and the tea-masters.com tea boutique. Things are well done. This is the boutique that I'm managing with the teas that I'm selecting with lots of care and passion and experience, I hope, for 20 years already. And we are going to do an interesting class about the difference between green tea and Wenshan Baozhong. Now the idea to this class is that I often hear the term green oolong or green Baozhong, and I really dislike this term because for me it confuses two tea families, the green tea family and the semi-oxidized oolong family. So for me, green oolong, green Baozhong does not help very much. It brings more confusion to the ears of people who want to learn about tea than clarity. I prefer to use the term fresh Baozhong or fresh oolong to make the difference with a roasted Baozhong or roasted oolong, rather than using the term green. Now, this is one of the reasons that I dislike this term, and yeah, it brings a lot of confusion. People think, oh, there's not much difference between a green tea and a lightly oxidized oolong or Baozhong, but I think there is a very important distinction. Actually, there are even two big differences between these two teas, green tea and fresh Baozhong or fresh oolong, and we are going to explore them today. Explore them in theory and in practice with these two samples from the sampler that I have made for this class. And this sampler, you will find 8 different Baozhongs, some that we have already studied, and also one sample, a smaller sample of Baozhong, a 12-gram sample, and so this, not Baozhong, Bilochun. So, and this Bilochun is a green tea that is made in Sanxia, where two other samples of Baozhong are made. And today I'm going to drink again the osmanthus scented Baozhong because it is coming from the very same leaves as the Bilochun. And there is a second Baozhong in the sampler, which is Chinu, which we have not studied yet. But Chinu is made from Chinu leaves. This Chinu Baozhong is made from Chinu leaves, which are not the leaves that are used to make Bilochun. Bilochun uses Qingxing Ganzhong leaves, and the Baozhong osmanthus scented is also made with this Qingxing Ganzhong leaves. So it is much more similar, if you want, and relevant to compare these two because even the leaf is the same. But as I said, there is a big difference between a green tea and a fresh Baozhong or Baozhong in general. Now, I've asked AI. I was because now you have AI everywhere. So since I've wrote this, when you type on Word, almost automatically Word proposes that you ask that you use AI to make the text. So I used AI, and AI only caught one difference. So this one difference is very important indeed. It is a difference in process. Last week we saw the process of Baozhong in detail, each step by step. So I will not repeat this class, but one of the steps is that that is very important is that Baozhong is oxidized by bruising the leaves and resting them, and then because the leaves are bruised, they oxidize at the where the leaves is bruised in the contact with air, and this is what gives a low oxidation level, because we also saw that one difference between Baozhong and Oolong is that Baozhongs have a lower oxidation rate than Oolongs. In the case of green tea, the tea is going through similar steps, but fewer steps. It is also withered after harvest in outdoors and indoors. However, it is not left to oxidize. After the withering, the tea is subjected to a high temperature. In the mainland, people are using wok most of the time. In Japan, people use steam, and in Taiwan, to make this bilochun, they use the same ovens that they use also for oolong. So here, the process does seem very similar, because they also use this oven to stop the oxidation before it starts. Of course, there's always a little bit of bruising that happens during the withering step, but of course it's very little. And indeed, so one of the difference is in the oxidation level, 0 versus 5 to 10, or maybe a little bit more, depending on the Baozhong and what the farmer intended to make. However, this is not the only difference. Now, let's look at the leaves and prepare them to see what could be this other difference, which was not mentioned by AI when I asked about it. And when we look at the leaves, already we can see something that jumps to our eyes is much more white buds for the bilochun, smaller leaves also, and larger leaves, more yellowish color, darker color for the Baozhong. There are also some buds, because it's a winter harvest. If you use a spring harvest, you will not see so many buds. This is a characteristic of winter harvests, that there are more buds to be seen in the dry leaves, both for Baozhong and for Oolong. But these buds are a minority. They have a much lower proportion than for green tea. Okay, so this is the first visual difference that we can notice. And I will explain in a few seconds what it means. I'm using fewer leaves for the green tea because it's a different character. Okay. Now, let's also preheat our cups. Slowly, trying to make not too much noise. And we can continue with the class and the difference between the green tea and the Baozhong. And as we noticed already, a higher ratio of buds for green tea, fewer buds for Baozhong, larger leaves also for Baozhong than for green tea. This goes to the core of the difference in character between green tea and Baozhong. And green tea is made with the smallest leaves possible, harvested as early as possible in the season. Whereas Baozhong or oolong is made with leaves that are harvested when they are mature. They should not be as young as green tea leaves. Green tea leaves, therefore, are typically harvested before April the 5th, and the earlier the better, whereas oolong Baozhong teas are usually harvested after April 5th. Of course, there are always exceptions. Some cultivars are faster than others, but in a general rule, it's after April 5th, and the maturity of the leaves is still important. There is but there is a peak. Too small is not optimal. Too old is also not so good. So there is a peak in maturity that is the best, but it's not as small as possible, which is the case for green tea. Green tea really size matters, and it should be very, very small. Whereas for Baozhong, there is you have to find the good balance between freshness and maturity. Yes, we can check on these two teas as they brew. The color of Baozhong is very pale, green pale, greenish, very light and pale, whereas the color of Baozhong is closer to yellow, also very clean, clear, and very fragrant, but a different kind of fragrance. So here again, now we have a clear difference in the color of the brews. We see that the small buds produce a very pale greenish color, whereas the more mature leaves of Baozhong produce, with their slight oxidation level, a much deeper yellowish color. So in this case, in the case of this Baozhong, to speak of a green Baozhong would really not make sense, since the brew is yellow, and even when you look at the open leaves, while they are green, they have a hint of yellow, whereas Baozhong is really very green, fresh green in color in terms of the leaves. And the other difference is really tiny leaves. Oops, which side does it go? Very tiny leaves for the Baozhong. I see even a bud here. Yeah, maybe a larger bud. Whereas the leaves of the Baozhong are more developed. Well, this one is quite small. Can we find a larger one? Here, these two are also are a bit larger and have more oxidation on the sides of the leaves. So here we can really compare. They are two to three times larger than the Baozhong leaves. So they might still be comparatively small compared to high mountain oolong, but here it's normal. Sanxia is at a low altitude, but this Baozhong will have larger leaves than green tea. So it's not just a matter of process and oxidation level. At the core, this starts with the level of maturity of the leaves. This is where the really the difference in character lies between green tea and Baozhong. Very fresh, delicate, floral, very refined and sweet. Even this Baozhong and the Baozhong has more body, feels also sweet and floral thanks to the osmanthus smell, but maybe more powerful, more full-bodied, and both are very very pleasant, very pure, very nice, but a very big difference in character. Here, lightness, it's all about lightness. Here it's much more about power, and that's why I also use more leaves for the Baozhong than for the Baozhong when I brew it, because I'm taking into account the character of both teas. You cannot compare with the same number of grams and the same time of brew. This would distort things. Either you would favor the green tea if you use a few grams, or you would favor the Baozhong if you use more quantity of leaves. And this shows that first is the leaf maturity and then is the oxidation level. So you could process these leaves into a green tea, but it would be very poor. It would not have any subtlety, any finesse, because these leaves are already too old to be processed into green tea. And these very young leaves, if you process them into a Baozhong, they would not make the body that you would expect from a Baozhong. It would also be very difficult to oxidize these buds. So it's first the maturity level and then the oxidation. I think this is an excellent way to understand the difference between green tea, Wenshan Baozhong. So in the future, use the concept of fresh Baozhong, but not green Baozhong anymore. We don't want to hear this anymore. Thank you very much. Give me a thumbs up if you liked this tea class. And next week we are going to brew a different cultivar from the same plantation. It's the Chinu, which I mentioned today, the Chinu cultivar transformed into Baozhong. Let's see how it tastes. See you next week. Have a wonderful Sunday and enjoy your teas. I'm looking if you have any questions. I don't see any questions, so I guess I must have been clear. And since I don't have so much battery, yeah, exactly the subject I was looking for. Writes Elizabeth, I've been curious about this subject. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for your comment, and thank you for everything. Wish you all the best and see you next week again. Bye bye.